Hello and welcome to the Claret Blue podcast, sponsored by NordVPN. I'm your host for this one, Dan Rowlinson, joined by John Townley at Poddymore Heath HQ to do a little bit of a squad depth assessment. You know, we're going to look at the first team profile page here on the Aston Villa website, is what I'm using for reference. We're going to go through the players, goalkeepers, midfielders, defenders, forwards, kind of do a keep, sell, loan format. Roughly, just assess what we've got and look ahead to next season a little bit. We're already in next season territory, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was by the time Palace scored their second goal yesterday.
Obviously, some of the players that we're going to be talking about here, there's no point us going Emi Martinez, keep, sell or loan, because probably start him to be honest. But we will do the goalkeepers. Emi Martinez, keep. Obviously, Joe Gauci and Robin Olsen are the two of the goalkeepers listed in the first team section of the website. What are you doing with those two? Gauci obviously stays, doesn't he? Because he's just
I don't think anything changes in that department.
I think Olsen stays.
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Yeah, but by no means is he. I think we can improve there, if I'm being totally honest. In terms of a backup keeper, I look at someone even like an Alex McCarthy at Southampton, and he's capable of being that upgrade. I think that we'd like, but Martinez is going to play every game if he can. So
it is a difficult.
The issue is that Olsen's played 10 league games this season. Sorry, not league games. 10 games in all competitions. That's quite a lot, and 5 in the Premier League. I think made 4 starts. So, if you said next season Martinez isn't going to start 4 Premier League games, there's a high chance that we probably lose most of those matches.
Conceded a lot of goals.
Again, considering who we're playing against, I suppose we might be playing the 4 worst teams in the division. But what I'm trying to say, we're probably going to concede at least once. I don't know. Olsen's a very experienced player, and Emery always says that he's well respected in the dressing room, and I don't doubt that at all. He's had more Champions League appearances than most players in our team. Certainly more international appearances, but I think on the pitch, is it kind of adequate for where we want to be? I think it's it's difficult. But do I think Villa are going to buy another goalkeeper? I don't think that's the case at the moment. We've obviously got Gauci, and whether he becomes the number 2 next season, I'm not sure. But I can't see a lot of change in that department, to be honest. You just hope that Martinez is fit to play every Premier League game and every Champions League game, really.
Anything for Sinisalo? Does he come back in? Gauci 2, Sinisalo 3, Olsen leaves?
This is outstanding campaign for him. Their manager couldn't speak highly enough about what he did. He was always in the gym at 6 a.m, he said, and he cancelled a holiday to kind of step up his progress there at Exeter. So fantastic loan for him. I don't know whether that's a player that Villa will just cash in on now. I think Celtic are interested, probably the Championship clubs as well. This reminds me, I was when we did our 100 million budget team, I'm fairly confident
I was actually 150.
Was it 100?
Yeah, splashing cash last year. We were.
Can't remember what. I don't know if I took him out or not, but I had. Do you know Victor Johansson, the old Villa keeper?
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident I put him in my team, and he's just signed for Stoke, and I feel like that would be the perfect backup keeper for us. And I don't know whether he'd want to play backup for us or not, but obviously that ship sailed anyway. But that I always like a goalkeeper that could probably kind of get to a better level than where Olsen would get to anyway. It's a tricky one because, as I say, there's clearly a drop off, but I also think it's something that Villa could have attended to last summer. I don't think it would happen this summer though, because we didn't. If we wanted to do it last summer, we would have done it. So why would we do it now?
On to defenders now. Then I'm just going to read out the 11 names that are listed on the first team section here, and we'll talk through them in a sec. Matty Cash, Diego Carlos, Ezri Konsa, Tyrone Mings, Luca Dean, Pau Torres, Alex Moreno, Callum Chambers, Clement Longley, Kane Kessler-Hayden, and Courtney Hawes. Now there's a couple of those in there that are absolute untouchables: Pau Torres, Ezri Konsa, and Tyrone Mings, for me at least. Do you agree with Mings?
Yeah.
Untouchable? Okay, that's fine. The others, I think, are probably all up for debate.
From the opposite side of Pau Torres and Ezri Konsa and Mings to Chambers and House,
Courtney Hawes has kind of put on Instagram, hasn't he, about like kind of completing a recovery or making a comeback or whatever. But
which is
good for him personally, but feels
Yeah.
like his Villa ship has sailed. To use that phrase twice in this episode already.
Yeah, I think so, and you kind of wish him all the best because he has a really difficult 2 years now. So good luck to Courtney, whatever happens to him, because I always say he still played a key part of our promotion season as well. We played a lot of those games in that 10-match winning run that we had. And
Doesn't even have a picture on the website.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd expect him and Chambers to leave in the summer.
Me too.
I say I expect House to leave. That depends on if there's interest for him, because obviously he's had a lot of injuries.
What contracts does he on? Do you know? Did he sign one after he scored that goal against Old Trafford? Chelsea.
Yeah.
Man United, I
think it was to 25.
Right.
So probably his last year now. Villa won't be getting any money for him.
I just wonder whether you just cancel the contract and let him go.
There'll be
ready to play.
An agreement somewhere potentially. I don't know, but I'd expect him and Chambers not to be involved.
Yeah.
Chambers, I think he will leave, although he's been told he can leave for the last 2 windows, and still worked incredibly hard. In training. Again, came on against Liverpool and did well. Against Forest in the second half, he did well as well, to be fair, at Villa Park.
He's did alright when called upon, but long term,
he'd definitely be a good signing for I think a lower league Premier League team. Lower league Premier League team,
someone who's going to finish in the bottom 6.
Yeah,
I think
Forest
would
sign a
start
lot of
Chambers
players,
most weeks.
Yeah, definitely, quality there, but for Villa, I think they want a bit more, of course. So. That leaves Villa kind of down to the bare bones, though, in terms of options, because Lenglet's obviously going back.
Yeah.
Which leaves you with Carlos and Konsa as 2 right-footed centre-backs, and then Mings and Pau Torres as the 2 left centre-backs. And, we've already seen that 2 injuries, maybe even 3, in a season can really disrupt it. And we obviously had Torres just coming back from an injury, playing with Lenglet against Fulham. We played really well there and got 3 points. But that proves how quickly things can change. So we need to be, I think, clever in this situation. Like a lot of people will say, we need to upgrade in some areas. But I keep saying we need to bolster the squad. And I'm not saying buying the centre-back, but can we buy a player who can do the Konsa role? I've said this before, that can play the right-back to centre-back, that kind of stroke role. Cash for me, definitely keep, because we don't have another player like him. If you take Cash out, we have no right back. Decisions will be made on Carlos, Luca Dean, other players who have big contracts, and of course getting no younger. For me, I would like to keep Luca Dean, and Carlos is a situation where if they can see value in another centre back, I'll be honest, I think he could be moved on. Whether there's interest, I presume there would be from different clubs, as I say, still on a big wage though, and I think he's 31 now, so there'll be decisions there. Left back, say Luca Dean, I'd like to keep. Alex Moreno, again, if you take one of them out, you got to bring another one in. So this is where Villa need to be careful. They can't just clear the squad out and clear 7 or 8 players out, because they're going to have to bring in 10 then, aren't they? So it's going
to be a very, very
an interesting
window.
summer, but I wouldn't make a lot of changes to that defence. But I'm just saying that if Villa can find value elsewhere, like the rest of the squad, then those decisions will be made. My
kind of prediction for these defenders then, Mings, Torres, Konsa definitely stay 100%. Obviously we have to see how Torres Mings recovers from his injury, and we don't know that yet. If he's half the player he was, then maybe that does become then a question mark. But let's say he returns to what he was before, he absolutely stays. I think you keep one of Dean and Moreno, and I would suspect it'll be Moreno. I think Dean will be on higher wages and probably more sellable. Lenglet goes, like you say, Chambers goes, Kankes Hayden possibly stays around or maybe goes out on loan again. Courtney Hawes goes. That leaves you with Carlos and Cash. I think Cash will stay, but I don't think he'll be a starter next season. I think if your 4 central defenders are Torres, Mings, Konsa and Carlos, that's a good 4, and then you add a free transfer as a 5th or maybe a loan just to bolster. Maybe Mings isn't quite ready, so you need that extra one. Yeah. Or there's some kind of value in Diego Carlos, who is apparently also a high earner. If you can get some money for him, you shift him on, and then you go to, right, okay, well, we've got... I know people don't like values and stuff, because I'm just going to guess. We get 20 million for Diego Carlos, but we sign a new centre-back with better value that Emery already knows for 10. and we've kind of still got our strong unit of four.
I honestly think that is the best way to do it.
I think that is more likely.
Yeah. Villa aren't in a situation where they certainly couldn't turn 20 million down for Carlos. I think that would be good value right now.
But I don't see that we sell Carlos for 20 and go, right, 60 million on this defender.
Yeah, exactly.
That won't happen.
And there is value in the market, like we've seen. There's a lot of players that, for example, Hermoso, the Atletico centre half. If Villa can do that, I'd be more than happy to see him play as a squad player, because he's not going to be playing ahead of Torres, and he's a left-sided defender. But you can, I haven't looked myself, but there'll be value. Monchi will know it.
And you're also right that if we are to get a new right back, which we all expect we do, and possibly we might go after a left back, who knows? Like, there was a stage where we're saying, we don't need a goalkeeper, do we? And then Martinez comes, so what do we know? But if you sign a right back who can also play as a third centre half, that also fills some of the gap, doesn't it, as you mentioned? Or likewise on the other side, you sign a left back that can do both.
But Villa, they need a big squad, and it's just one or two injuries in those positions. And it's
we've seen what happens.
Yeah, exactly. So this isn't a case of we need to sell players to kind of free up wages or whatever. They're going to have to be replaced. They're going to have to also be replaced with good players, because this is the team that finished fourth this season. So we can't just bring in a young defender from the Championship or whatever. I mean, you can, as long as they're good enough. That's the key thing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see experience come in. The likes of Neveljkovic, Lino Sousa come in. I haven't mentioned Neveljkovic just because we don't know his level yet. He could go out on loan, or he could be part of the first team. Simply don't know. He's only 18 or 19 now, so obviously you can't.
It's such an unknown quantity for us to be guessing on the 20th of May is silly. Let's do midfielders then. I'm going to bunch these into like central midfielders roughly, and then more
in the double
attacking
pivot,
players.
The two forward ones,
McGinn I've put in the central midfielders section, although he's not really played centrally that often. You know what I mean? So we have Douglas Luiz, John McGinn, Yuri Tielemans, Boubacar Kamara, and Tim Irabunam. I think are just about the pure central players. Ramsey could play central but tends to play out left, so I'll leave him to a little bit. These five are interesting for me. John McGinn is untouchable, absolutely. Yuri Tielemans I think is untouchable. Kamara obviously untouchable when he returns from injury, but again you see what kind of player he is. I expect him to be okay though. Fingers crossed, touch wood, everything. Tim Irabunam, I'll come back to him in a second. Douglas Luiz is the interesting one for me. From a point of view as I'm a fan and I like to see this team play football, I'd say Douglas Luiz is untouchable. I think he's very, very important. I really, really like him. Contributes goals. We all know what he offers. We're not going to do that now. But I think if we are having to sell somebody, I think he is a good candidate in terms of the revenue we would get for him. And I think, I don't know, to me midfield is just easier to replace somehow, and I don't know if there's anything in that. Like if we sold Konsa for 70 million, value there, good, but replacing a centre back of that quality would be difficult. Martinez, replacing him would be next to impossible. Replacing Ollie Watkins,
what you're saying is
next to impossible.
It's a like for like.
Yeah, you'd have to, if we sell Watkins for 80, we'd have to spend near enough 80 to get anywhere near him. I think if you sold Luiz for 80 or 90, you probably could spend, and this isn't to disrespect Luiz's ability, but I think in the market, Monchi and Emery could find a player for 30 to do the job he does.
Or spread the cost on a couple.
I'd love to keep him. I'm not saying that he's not important or we can get rid of him, or we didn't play for a few games and we won. Do we need him? I'm not saying that, but I think of all the players on this list, there's something about him that makes me think if he brings in the biggest fee, I think we can get by.
Yeah, and I think it's the most likely of the sales as well. We know that there's an evidence situation, and Emery said some interesting stuff about the PSR situation, mentioned that we basically need to sort our funds and finances out and then build. And I don't know if he literally meant it as the case of we need to sell then to buy. But I wouldn't be surprised
if you sold Douglas Luiz on June the 4th, the day that we're doing the live show. Incidentally, tickets available. They're not actually. The tickets are sold out. You kind of go, right, well, we've done the big sale first, tick, now we can kind of progress forward.
That would make sense, and it's a real shame that it's even come to this.
100%. This should not be happening.
No, there's only so many players that we can sell there. We can't sell Martinez, we can't sell Watkins,
can't sell Torres, can't sell Konsa.
You're
kind of running out of players then at that point, aren't you?
And that's why Luiz is kind of towards the top of the list of likely sales. Again, which is a shame. I don't want to be talking about it, but it's a situation we find ourselves in. But again, I'm not gonna. If Luiz was to depart, which would be frustrating, but I've always said I still think come the end of the summer we'll be in a stronger place than where we were, because
I agree,
this is Emery's team. He's going to be buying the players that he wants under the kind of guidance of Monchi to find these players. So I'm not kind of worried about it. It's just a shame that we'd have to lose our best technical player.
Well, if you qualify for the Champions League, you should not then have to sell one of your best players in the same window. But the rules are sadly the rules.
The rules are the rules, and what I would say as well, and as we all know, without spending the money we have, we wouldn't be here.
No,
so
exactly.
It's kind of like, well, if we have to part with a player, possibly two, we don't know, then so be it. As long as it doesn't take us backwards, and I'm pretty certain that it wouldn't. It doesn't sound very nice talking about, but what's the quickest deals to do? Because we want money to come in quickly so we can get our players in quickly. We know there's interest from Arsenal and Barcelona like him, obviously other clubs as well, but how serious that is, I'm not sure. So yeah, we'll wait and see on Luiz. Kind of moving on though, I think holding midfielder is absolutely paramount. Kamara is obviously a fantastic footballer, but he needs competition. He needs support in that position as well. I said it as soon as we let Dendoncker go, and this isn't me saying Dendoncker would have had a huge impact on the season, because I don't think he would have. But I think we took a big risk there. We finished fourth, and it's okay, and I don't think bringing in a holding midfielder would have saved us against Olympiacos necessarily. But we took a big risk for me, not bringing someone else in, because then we've had injuries to Tielemans, we've had injuries elsewhere, and that was a decision that I was surprised at, really. I presumed Tim would play, basically, but he hasn't really been given that.
What happens to Tim, do you think?
For me, you have to either loan Tim or sell Tim now. I think you're unless this is Emery's grand plan to just give him experience of being in and around it, which I doubt it, because he's had a season at QPR. He's
not a child,
not elite football, exactly, but he's played competitive football for a period of time. Comes back and doesn't really play. He's obviously been training a lot, but I think the biggest decision that started to me was against Palace, and that was the game for Tim. But you played Chambers ahead of him, Chambers that will probably be leaving in the summer. So it's I was kind of scratching my head a little bit at that one.
I do wonder about the quality of that signing, and we'll talk about additions in another episode, because Kamara is obviously going to return to training in September, is it, I think?
That's probably the earliest.
It's the estimate. So let's say he's fully match fit end of November, maybe?
Halloween.
Kind of half a season of games already. So do you need somebody to come in and be first team quality, absolute 40 million player that's going to sit in and compete with Kamara every week, or play next to him when he comes back? Or do you go with somebody right, well, we need a depth option, you're going to play the start of the season for 15 games, but when Kamara is back, you're on the bench, and that's your level. How do you kind of balance that?
In an ideal world, again, you'd spend as much as you like on a top holding midfielder to compete, but again, we're not in that. We can't be in those markets. So, as I said, a player who has experience that can compete for minutes. We haven't done our dream team yet, but there's a wealth of players. And again, Villa are really fortunate, or not fortunate, sorry. But Villa are in a really good position that they're in the Champions League, and they've got Unai Emery. All of our targets, I think, would like to come to Villa this season. Or in the summer, sorry. It's just whether we have the finance to do it. So if there are players who can do a job as such for a couple of seasons, as I say, maybe they're slightly older now, I don't know, but I'm sure they'd be more than happy to end their kind of peak, I suppose, under one of the best managers in world football and in the Champions League, playing in Europe. The
kind of big sale interests me, whether it's Luiz or one of the others or whatever, because it kind of feel like, well, if we're working within a budget of, we're keeping these players, we're going to reject all these massive offers, and we're going to just about do a job with, again, X amount, 30 million, let's say. We're going to kind of wheel and deal, kind of, scrape around and just spend what we have to and settle through it. I do wonder whether they're just going, right, get it done, pull the Band-Aid off quickly. Band-Aid? What is this? Pull the plaster off quickly. pull the plaster off quickly and just go, right, Douglas Luiz, thank you very much for your service. Thank you for the 100 million. Now we can go, well, we've got these 5 top targets. Forget about wheeling the dealing. We're just going to go bang, 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 bang. We want you 5. They'll come to us, we hope, because we're Champions League, we're Unai Emery, maybe it's players he's worked with, and we just kind of get that money in and get who we want and get them in early and say, right, that's our squad. That's what we want to do.
That's why I say that Luiz is most likely, because it's also, in my head at least, probably the quickest sale that we could make.
Have Arsenal got 100 million?
Well, I was about to say 100 million. I don't think you'd get that for Luiz.
Do you not?
No.
So I think we would want 100 million, but I don't know whether anyone's got that.
Again, I think in an ideal world, but Arsenal know that, well, they need to sell.
Yeah,
we're not going to play.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not going to pay top whack. It will still be a big fee, because Villa will say, well, we just won't sell him then because we need this amount of money.
Yeah, to do
we
what we
won't
want
sell
to do.
him if we don't get it, because that's just,
Yeah, you're not going to do 50 million.
Yeah, you're not just going to flog him for 35. Because we it's not like selling the car park level as we were previously. So I don't know what his value will be now, Luiz. If I'm being totally honest, we know that he is £80 million plus player when he's on top form, when he has all of the players around him that he needs to hit those levels. But
I think you would get 80 for him.
I'd like to think so.
But I would want more. I think he's worth more. But I think, like you said, the market
it's the structure
is the
of the deal
factor.
as well.
Yeah.
Villa need the money not paid in £20 million instalments over certain years. It needs to be like, you know. And again, this is why.
Very interesting, isn't it? All this stuff.
You could probably, well, unfortunately, it is. Yeah. You could probably move on now to the kind of attack-minded midfielders, and that kind of brings you on to Ramsey, because that's another situation where I said, when Ramsey got injured against Luton, and this isn't a critical way, because I said at the start of the season, I think Ramsey will be the player of the sounds bad now, but I said he will be the player of the season because he's got levels to go, and the way he was playing at the back end of last season was exceptional, and he was just about getting in his groove, I thought, before he picked up that latest injury against Luton. He was showing more confidence and showing signs that he was getting back to his best. But then
I'm listening, by the way. Just a couple of messages. Sorry.
That's fine. Morgan Rogers, when he plays now until the end of the season, this will show if we need Ramsey, and that probably sounded a bit harsh, but I think if Villa were to take a bid of, say 50 million, it's going to be a conversation about that for sure. It's certainly not a player that I want to see leave Villa for any money, because he's homegrown, he's boyhood fan. Exactly, and we've forgotten about how good he is, because this season has been so stop-start, and as I say, because Rodgers has come in and played well. And as I said, I did say that this is going to prove we need him.
Ramsey. Both.
I know, but my point being that you got to juggle the financial side, can we afford to keep a top player? Do you know where I'm kind of going with it? I'd love to.
I agree with what you're saying. And
this isn't me trying to sell Ramsey whatsoever. I really want to keep him. And if we don't have to, then don't even think about it. But if you look at kind of, at the bottom of or at the top of the kind of unsellable is Watkins, Martinez, because you just can't replace those players. At the other side is probably Luiz, because you could probably spread it out a bit. I think Ramsey falls into that kind of catchment as well, because
Rodgers already exists,
because Rodgers getting to a level,
other work you could do,
and and again, I don't want to sell Ramsey for any money if that was
my thing
possible.
with Ramsey is that there was talk, obviously Newcastle, they denied it, didn't they, in January. I think Eddie Howe in a press conference said no, there's nothing.
There was
interest.
Interest from Tottenham as well.
I think it was 40 million was the rumoured fee back then. I think 45 possibly.
Apparently, so I mean, what we'd say as well is that Villa said at the time, we don't want to sell Ramsey.
Of course, yeah.
He wants to stay.
Kind of park all that for a second. Yeah. Talking about, is the value actually out there? Have clubs got money to spend anyway? I know he's a top player, and we all know that, and scouts will know it, and the opposition football clubs will know it. But has the season that Ramsey's just had have affected his value? Will somebody actually stump up 50 million, or will they be thinking, well, he's barely kicked a ball this season? We'll do you 30.
The nature of
and at that point, is they not worth it for Villa?
The nature of the injury, or the injuries, I think that's a little bit concerning, because it's a repetition. In one way, you'd say, well, maybe he was rushed back a couple of times, I don't know. And therefore, with a bit of rest over the summer, he'll be fine, and it'll be good as new sort of thing. But then the other side is, well, what is
What
it
if
a
it
deeper
goes
problem?
again?
I don't know. But I like the point you raise, because as you say, it needs to be worthwhile for Villa. That's what I said about Luiz. It needs to be a certain price, because if it's not,
if Newcastle say, well, actually, we'll give you 20 now, we're sort of, well, that don't interest us.
Exactly, yeah. But that's my point about. I think it's kind of like a benchmark of how much do Villa need Ramsey, and that has to be balanced with because they need money as well to bring in. If the money is so much and it kind of overtakes the need of him, then there'll be a conversation. If it doesn't, then there won't be. That's the kind of point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to sell him, I'm just trying to add context of what it would take for Villa to part with Ramsey. And I really don't want that to happen. That one would really hurt me, because you're looking at a situation where Chelsea probably have to sell Conor Gallagher, a homegrown player. It could be the case that Villa might do that with Ramsey. That's just, how can that...
I know, it's mad. The rules shouldn't be like that.
The rules are so broken. And again, Villa don't want to, so that's not what I'm saying. But the point I've raised there about decisions will be made if certain bids come in, but you are right. Who has the money to do that? And Newcastle one, I don't think they are. It feels like the rules are here to derail Villa, but it's kind of like, nah, we'll continue because we have Emery and Monchi.
Oh, 100%.
Like, you can try and strip us and whatever, but we'll be okay. If we were somewhere else, i.e. 11th or 12th, I'd be like, oh, this is a disgrace. How are we ever supposed to break into Europe? And that's what it would have been if we didn't get to Emery's level. That's when I would be really frustrated and sad. So yeah, it's annoying, but it's okay.
This is just modern football, sadly, and that's the way it is. Right, a couple of these other players then, I think these are pretty self-explanatory. Nicolo Zaniolo, obviously injured for the summer, will go back and not be here next season. Buendia has obviously stepped up his rehab and is close to returning, and will hopefully have a full pre-season. I'm excited and hopeful about Buendia for next season. He was the best player in pre-season last year. Of course, the big question mark is, well, what does the knee injury do for him in terms of physically or even mentally? We don't know. Hopefully, he'll return as the player that was playing in pre-season. 100%.
And therefore, that would be like a new signing.
Yeah. Morgan Rogers obviously stays, plays, contributes, and Leon Bailey. Yeah. He's also in an unsellable list, Bailey. And we've spoken about Ramsey. So on to the forwards. There's only two listed on the...
Diaby as well.
Oh, and Diaby, sorry, yes, also stays, plays, contributes. Nice little catchphrase, that, isn't it? Ollie Watkins, stays, plays, contributes. And John Duran, stay or cash in?
Yeah, this is an interesting situation again.
Cameron Archer will be returning, by the way, after Sheffield United relegated. I think he goes straight out again.
I think so, yeah.
I think you try and sell him again and just crack on.
Yeah, Duran's really interesting, and I always say on the podcast that I like him a lot, and I really do. He has every attribute to become a top striker. He really does, but he needs to learn, and needs to learn quickly.
I think we're going to differ here. Keep or sell?
Well, this depends.
On?
Money.
Okay.
I can't see
30 million.
I can't see a team bidding that much for him, and therefore I don't think it's worth selling him. And again, I need to see Villa's books to see what we can do and what.
Good luck with
for example, if Luiz was to go,
if you sell a player of Luiz's transfer fee, let's say, you don't need to do anything else. I don't think.
Well, again, this depends on targets. It depends what Emery wants to do. Yeah. For example, if we were to sell Luiz, and then it was a situation where, right, we want to sign these two players, but to make sure that we're, comfortably in the green, Ramsey or Duran might have to leave.
Okay, yeah.
For me, it's not a debate. Duran goes, but then also there needs to be enough interest for Duran to,
if he's got
bring in 30 to 40 million, because that's the price that would probably need. If you're talking 20 million, then you could probably flog off a couple of other players for that combined fee or whatever. So there needs to be context with it. I don't think it's as easy as just sell or keep, because I wouldn't sell Duran for 15. We bought him for.
But if
he's
got all the attributes to be a top striker, surely there will be interest.
Yes, but then it's baggage, right? It's Duran, as to say, he needs to mature, and Emery said that he is maturing, but what I would say is he's only a kid still. He's come from America via Colombia, but has never lived in England before. Obviously speaks English, but it's not. Yeah, this is a completely new experience for him, and he's still. I don't suppose he has. Don't mean this in like a horrible way, but a lot of his mates won't be here. Imagine being a 19, 20-year-old just moving to a different country, completely different, and you're working, in a good way under Emery, who is constantly on at you at tactics and meetings. But then for some people, it doesn't work like that. So Duran needs to realise what an opportunity that he has at Villa, and just knuckle down and continue to work and not complain or moan or want something that isn't there, because he's not going to be playing over Ollie Watkins next season. Watkins will play every game in the Premier League and the Champions League. Duran won't start, I don't think, at any point. He started against West Ham and...
that didn't work, did it?
Alongside Watkins, he started against West Ham and the last game, Palace. Yeah. Neither time it's worked. It worked against Palace in the last minutes when we won 3-1, but a completely different situation. He started against City and did well, scored. There's a player there, but is it too much, basically? Emery is definitely wary of, is he I'm not trying to say he's a disruption or anything like that, because it's not a school class. The experienced pros in the Villa team won't stand for it. But McGinn even said himself, and I know it was a joke, but it was also quite telling that he's a nightmare to. He said it in a couple of interviews, didn't he? In a couple of different in different, kind of different turns of phrase as well. Well, yeah, but there's no getting around it. He is. He needs to learn quickly, and I don't think he'll be afforded that time. Well, this is it. And Emery's even said in his press conference when he was asked about Duran and the embargoed section, like, fantastic player, great potential, and we want him to stay, we want him to grow up with us, but like every other player, decisions will be made in the transfer market. It's exactly the point I've just made of if someone bids this money, Villa will look and think, well, we can do this with that money, shall we sell him? That's the kind of brutal nature of it now. We'll see, and it's going to be an interesting one, Duran, I think, this summer. Yeah, I like parts of him. I love the chaos. I love the kind of unknown quantity. There is definitely potential in there. He's got a kind of rocket of a shot on him, but it's just a little bit too much silliness that I don't think it will stand. That's my point. And the silliness is, I think so far silliness is mental, but it comes from here. Yeah. His ability, for me, it's top. Like, he's a very, very good player. I'll go that far. No, as in, for 20 years, he's 20. Yeah, what 20-year-old striker has that in the Premier League? Seriously? Oh, there must be some. I don't know. I don't know whether he's that good. I genuinely believe if he switches on, he can become. I'm not saying he can become like a Lukaku level player, but he's got all the ability to become that type where he can just roll people. Physically, for his age, it's outstanding. Like, genuinely. I think there's elements of when we've said before about, like, if Emery didn't rate him or whatever, he just simply would not be in and around the squad, and he has been. But it's also like, well, what's he supposed to do? Like, he's not going to come out mid-season. Oh, he would have sold him. Oh yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, but when though? If there's not interest and well, there was though. That was there. Okay. Well, West Ham wanted him on. Like, I take your point, but he would have gone. Villa would have made. I almost feel like it's a bit like. You said it's not like a school classroom, but I am picturing Emery as like the teacher and the naughty kid in the class, where you get to like the end of the summer, it's like he's doing my head in now. Like I've dealt with him for a year. Yeah, we're now in the big time. We've got Champions League. We want to be in the top four again. We want to go and win the title. Is Emery's aspirations? I can't be doing with that headache anymore. Like, he might be a great student one day. He might go on to do and achieve things. But I've kind of had my. But we're in the here and now with him. We can't wait for Duran in 5 years to reach his potential. Exactly that. I don't think. To me, you're right in kind of not the Lukaku comparison like for like, but he can go on and have a great career domestically and internationally. He could play for Colombia. He could score loads of goals one day, but he could also be. Balotelli also scored goals, but he could be a Balotelli of football that goes. He had talent, he had ability, but what a waste! He never utilised it. And I don't think there's a middle ground for Duran. It's either he's going to be great or he's going to fizzle out and be nothing. How much money would you have to be offered if you're Monchi?
You're doing your planning meetings.
Depends on the targets that
Well, forget that. You got to forget it for a second.
No,
just a cold hard figure. They come in and go, right, bang, here's a checkbook, write a number on it.
Well, I would be surprised if anyone pays over 25. Put it that way.
Would you take 25?
If Villa have the targets to pursue with that money, then yeah, because it would improve us.
Yeah.
Again, in the here and now, I'd love Duran to become in 3 years a top player, and he's our player, and maybe he kind of takes over from Watkins then when Watkins is kind of hit his peak or whatever it may be. That is kind of the situation, right? But at the same time, I would prefer us to win trophies and be a better team
now,
if it meant he goes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and that's the situation Villa are in. They are in the here and now. They're not playing for potential or trying to become a team in the future. They're fourth. They are the fourth best team in the league. They're playing in the Champions League. There's no, there
is no future.
There's no.
What we've achieved.
It's a project, but it's not a project as like we're just going to sign young players and increase their value. That's not it. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I really like him, and I want him to succeed, and I want him to switch on and, as Emery says, grow up. But even in the Palace game, he was shrugging his shoulders a lot, complaining at Watkins not for playing him in, taking shots when it was not on.
Palace game on Sunday.
Palace game just gone. And I know, but still, it's the immaturity of it for me. Like there was one situation where Watkins was it was 2-on-2 pretty much. Watkins went left, could have played Duran in on the right. Really, it wasn't a better position than Watkins was in already. Watkins is going for 20 goals. You got to understand that. And then he goes wide, could have potentially crossed the ball then Watkins, but he looks up and Duran was just sulking on the edge of the box. And he was like, well, you've got to just get over it and make the run at the near post. It's that kind of stuff that will be frustrating Emery as well. And as I say, it won't disrupt his teammates because they're experienced and they've probably seen it before from other players. But as I said, financially, Villa aren't in this situation just to keep a player because he might become something. If they get a big bid or a bid that's worth them buying the players through it, then I think he'll go. Good
debate, John. I enjoyed that. Players loaned out then. We spoke about a couple of these already. Sinisalo, we've spoken about. Philip Marshall, who has been at MK Dons this season. Philip Coutinho has obviously been in Qatar. And then Donker went to Napoli in January. Neither of those two will be here, will they, next season?
Coutinho, Vasco da Gama would like to sign him.
Same Brazil.
Yeah. And Dendoncker won't be going back to Napoli, which is a shame for Villa and him.
Didn't even play there, did he? Really hardly.
Barely, no. The manager got sacked a few weeks after he joined. So they're not going to take up the option. I think it was around £7 to £8 million. So that's a shame. That would have been good money. He'll go elsewhere. I don't know where. And it won't be a lot of money, but it will be wages off the books and something to the transfer kitty. Sanson's left now for Nice. Couple £1 million. That's kind of the senior look. And then you've got the youngsters as well.
I don't really want to pick out any youngsters in massive detail.
Well, you could probably go over the players that have been on the bench.
Yeah, so Kellerman was the one I was thinking of, really, is the only one that was worthy of kind of giving too much airtime to. I think with any of the youngsters that are listed on the under-21s page now, so you've got, I don't know, Silswinkle's obviously signed a new deal recently. Kellerman, I've just said. Caden Young's been in and around it.
Finn Monroe, Kerr Smith.
Yeah, Leo Barry's had a promotion winning year at Stockport County. Tommy O'Reilly went to Real Union with Josh Feeney. Players like that, you're either going to have to be loaning them again, proper kind of maybe a championship level, right? Go and give yourself a good account of it, or they're good enough in maybe Kellerman's case. Okay, we're going to keep you around the first team and we're going to blood you here and there. But that feels a step too far, I would say.
Yeah, we can't rely on the youngsters, and it would be unfair to. They wouldn't expect it anyway.
Because what are the rotation options? I think if it was Conference League again, you'd probably go, okay, well, there's potential there, but
every game next season,
Champions League.
Every game next season will be significant.
Yeah.
You're right. A couple of them might be on the fringes of the on the bench again, but a lot of them have been training in the first team anyway.
100%. Yeah,
ones that haven't even been around the squad this season. So good experiences for them anyway. Whether they go out on loan next season or just remain around Emery, because I said this back in January. Sometimes players going out on loan, fantastic, but then loaning from Emery can just take them on another level. So they've been interesting summer for a lot of those younger players as well.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe in weeks to come, we'll do a dedicated kind of youth academy
so.
assessment or whatever as well, to give it a bit more airtime, because, as I said, we're not really kind of ready for that at the moment. John, thanks for your time, as always, to kind of look through the Villa squad. Obviously, this brings up the conversations that we're talking about, new DMs, right backs. We'll do all that another time and look at some actual names and maybe some profiles that Villa need rather than specific names. We need an attacking fullback that can do this and that kind of thing. So that'll be coming up soon. We've got loads of content coming up throughout the season, so stay subscribed to the Claret Blue podcast to keep up to date. Thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next one.